And believe me, I was really scared,
Yes.
really scared. And just like when I read to you, I was like, there's no way you're doing this. Like, figure it out, find someone else.
Right.
I'm just not doing it.
This is
So
a no-go.
I don't care what it is. Like, And you said to me, God doesn't bargain. And I'm like, well, he's going to have to start today, because I can't do this. This is a no-go. That night I go to across the street. There's a hotel. That's where I was sleeping. When we're leaving, I write down, she's in room 626. You take elevator D. I go across the street because I always get lost. So I go across the street. I'm with my brother-in-law. He's crying because it's, he's being very stoic in front of her, but then we get out and he's just a mess. And we check into our hotel rooms. He has his room. I have my room. I get to my room. I'm in room 626.
All right, now can I tell you something? Can I tell you something about for me, the 26 are our family. Brian's grandparents always signed every single card with 2626 because it's the most you could ever love anyone, because when the kids were little, that's what they would say. So right now I'm just feeling this immense love. Like, you can't, like, you were in 626, she's in 626, and then here's the most love that you can possibly imagine. You can't even say it any other way. Hello, my beautiful friend. Today I have such a huge episode for you, and I cannot wait for you to dive in. Listen, I believe that we all go through a period in our lives being curious about God, curious of what is actually real and what isn't. My guest today is an actual former atheist, and she teetered in this space since 10 years old of not believing. And as a grown woman, a miracle came to her and shifted her perception of what she now knows is true and real. Pilar is joining me for this very open conversation about religion, God, miracles, blessings, and almost losing her sister, and what brought her to know that God had her back. I know you're going to love it. Grab your pen and paper. You're probably going to want to take notes because there's so much juicy yumminess. And I cannot wait to hear in the comment section what your biggest takeaway is. So enjoy. Here we go. Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Just dealing with.
We are going to go in and do a follow-up from our original conversation around the miracles that you've experienced, not only you, but your family, because I think everyone would love to hear the magnitude of this grace that God has shown in your family.
It's the craziest thing. So I wrote this. To quote the late, great Leslie Jordan, well, shit. I want to write down my thoughts as to what has happened over the last few days, which feels like months. I have to start a bit too far in the beginning because I think it may be significant. I am very aware of spirit, and I have felt touched my whole life. It's not something that I ever wanted to talk about, but I think my mother has it as well. I am not afraid of it, but I think I felt it would be a burden if I explored it. But I speak out loud to those who have passed over, and I feel very connected to the earth and to spirit. I will say it was a Tuesday when I had a light work schedule and was able to come home. Busy, doing laundry, making beds, walking dogs, prepping meals, to another busy. As I passed my side of the bed, in the corner, I could smell my grandmother. And I can't remember if we talked about that or not. We did, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So I smelled her and I could feel her, and it made me cry. The next day, my beloved sister called me. She was having strange pains in her belly and wanted to know what my experience was like with gallbladder troubles and surgery. She was going to the doctor that afternoon. Her doctor thought it was a gallbladder issue, and she lives in a small town in Colorado, kind of like our small town here in Connecticut. Her local doctor does not have much technology, so he sent her to the ER for scans and blood work. They would need to confirm they could do everything there. Her scans indicated that instead of a gallbladder issue, we were dealing with something much more serious, liver cancer. There was a mass on her liver and in her bile ducts. They took a biopsy and sent her home with pain medicine. So when they took the biopsy, they did an endoscopy. They went down here and they saw a blockage in her bile ducts. So they put in a stent. So they sent her home with pain medicine, but it wasn't enough. She was up all night in pain. And in the morning, calls were being made about getting her to a major hospital in Denver, which was 4 hours away. It's hard to describe my relationship with my sister. Close isn't enough. Twins was a good one she used recently, but we're not twins. She is the person I feel closest to in the world. I feel like she is my other half or my whole. It has only been in the last few years that I've learned that not everybody feels this way about their sibling. What we share is special and unique on top of being special and unique. Once I heard that she and her husband were on the way to Denver, I knew I had to get on a plane without question. Even my husband said go. Before this, I had been walking our 3 dogs on our land. I feel very connected to the earth that we live on, and so lucky that I can put my feet and hands and body on the soil whenever it calls to me, and it does often. So as I'm walking, I'll feel the pull and I'll lay down on the ground no matter what I'm doing with my 3 huge dogs. I will be walking and will take off my shoes and walk as long as I can without them. I feel the earth literally pulling down, making me so heavy, so I have to stop and surrender. Outside is where I talk to spirit, to my number 1 greatest uncle ever, who lives in the trees and the hummingbirds. I sometimes talk to my friend Carice, who I miss so much, but I talk out loud to those I feel when I feel them. On the day that I learned my sister might be sick, I took the dogs out and I spoke to God. I have been an atheist and agnostic since I was 10 years old. Why? I saw the misogyny and the hypocrisy in it all. I just couldn't believe it. It was all stories and bullshit and control, and it put women last, if even at all. None of it made any sense. It was all too fantastic. Everyone says that when you are faced with the worst, you find God. And motherfucker, they are right. I walked my dogs and we were going uphill. I said out loud, God, you cannot take my sister. You cannot. Take someone else, figure it out, but this is not happening. I know we can't fill an afterlife with bad people, and I know you need good people over there, but no fucking way is this happening. I felt my power more fiercely in that moment than I ever have. I pushed my feet into the earth. I raised the power out of the earth, through my body and out. I could feel it. I said, I am ready for a fight with you, God, and I am not afraid of you. You might want my sister, and maybe you need my sister, but that is a no-go. I was a mess. I took pills to try to stop my nerves from feeling. I fell and luckily didn't hurt myself. I didn't want to overreact, so I stayed home and tried to stay calm. My dear friend said, go to your sister now. My husband said, go to your sister. So I did. Within 2 hours, I had organized our daughter, thank you to our amazing friends, got a ride to the airport 2 hours away and on a flight. I hadn't told my sister or brother-in-law that I was coming. They were still in the ER when I landed. I didn't tell my parents that I was going until I was boarding the plane. My parents are wonderful, but very, very difficult. And that's kind of where I left my notes. So all of that is true. All of that happened. All of that, I felt so strongly on that mountain. And now I call it God Mountain. And I got to the hospital and she was still in the ER. She had been there for 8 hours. They were getting ready to move her to her room. So they, at that point, had done an endoscopy with a tissue sample, ultrasounds at hospitals, blood work at 2 different hospitals. So the small hospital where they lived where they live, and then the bigger hospital in Denver. And then all of a sudden, they finally moved her to her own room where she could feel a little more comfortable. Every doctor that came in looking at her reports, looking at her scan, all her blood work was fine. But they said, everybody said, we see a mass. It's on your liver. It's right in the middle. It's affecting your bile ducts, which is why they put a stent in at the other hospital. And we have to wait for the
Pathology report.
Thank you. The pathology report, which takes forever, by the way. I mean, it's 5 days at the minimum. So
Right.
you're just sitting,
Yep.
praying, basically. So we get up to her room, and then we get into like a lot of coincidences. I don't know, maybe not. I don't think so.
Synchronicities.
So what?
The synchronicities.
I guess. I mean, you'll know more than I will. This is your it's kind of new for me. So the first person we meet is a nurse named Tim. My uncle Tim, who I talked about before, who I talked to a lot, was a nurse named Tim. You know, what do you say? Is that a coincidence?
Literally. I just literally the whole time I have like the goosies, and I'm just like,
But it's still the craziest. Like when I'm reading it, I don't feel it as strongly because I've mellowed out a lot, but
yes.
It really rocked me hard.
This
So
is why
a
it's
nurse,
so good, like we're talking, because the voice is going to have a different inflection and different, it's just going to have more to it.
yeah.
So the nurse, Tim,
Tim.
your uncle Tim. Now tell
Yeah.
me more. Go more.
So that first night we get told Tim is there. I can't remember if it was the same night or if it was the next day, but I'll just say that night I go to across the street. There's a hotel. That's where I was sleeping. When we're leaving, I write down, she's in room 626. You take elevator D. I go across the street because I always get lost. So I go across the street. I'm with my brother-in-law. He's crying because it's, he's being very stoic in front of her, but then we get out and he's just a mess. And we check into our hotel rooms. He has his room. I have my room. I get to my room. I'm in room 626.
All right. Now can I tell you
don't
something? Can I tell you something about for me, the 26 are our family. Brian's grandparents always signed every single card with 2626 because it's the most you could ever love anyone, because when the kids were little, that's what they would say. So right now I'm just feeling this immense love. Like you can't, like you were in 626, she's in 626, and then here's the most love that you can possibly imagine. You can't even like say it any other way.
But I don't even know is that a thing or is that your family thing?
It's a family thing, but it's a thing. It's a thing.
That's crazy. See, I'm telling these things are not things. So the next day there's a nurse named Sunshine. And my grandmother used to sing, "You Are My Sunshine." And then I'm always like trying to be positive about everything. That's just how I am. So of course her name is Sunshine. Like, of course that's, like, why wouldn't there be? Then there's now all this time, like we're trying to laugh and have fun as much as we can. She's in pain, but they're moderating it. There's teams of doctors coming in. There's the GI team. There's the surgery team. There's the GI team that just deals in stents. There's the oncology team. There's another team that's just like a random team. There's 2 other random teams. I have everything on video also. I have videotaped everything except for one doctor. And these people are the like top physicians in their fields. This is a teaching hospital. When you're in their presence, you're like, oh my God, like they're hardcore people. Every single person said, there is a mass on your liver. It is in your bile ducts. We talked about blood transfusions. We talked about organ donation, like me giving her an organ. We looked at her liver. We saw the ultrasound, and where it was. Like if this is her liver, it was right in the middle. So it made it very difficult. We talked about chemotherapy and what kind of chemotherapy she would have and how often she would have it and what it would be like for her to have it. And this is all, crazy, and then there's all these little things like a nurse named Tim, you were my sunshine. I have a friend who just recently lost her sister, who she was probably as close to her sister as I am to mine. And when I was on the plane on the way, I almost texted her and something said to me, your sister is going to live, don't text her. And it wasn't that clear, but it was more like, don't do that.
Right.
So,
I want to just explore that for a little
Yeah.
minute, because I love this. When you get a message like that, it's hard to explain how it's simplistic, but then there's so much depth to it. Like, don't do that, but you got the rest of it. You just knew in your body, oh, okay, you heard my sister's going to be okay. And the rest was just like a pure knowing.
Yeah. I mean, and believe me, I was really scared,
Yes.
really scared. And just like when I read to you, I was like, there's no way you're doing this. Like, figure it out, find someone else.
Right.
I'm just not doing it.
This is
So
a
I
no-go.
don't care what it is. Like, And you said to me, God doesn't bargain. And I'm like, well, he's going to have to start today, because I can't do this. This is a no-go.
Right.
So there's more weird things. So then this woman, she was our nurse. We call her the greatest nurse of all time. I don't know what it was about her. She was just very thorough. Like when my sister was in pain, she brought the pain medicine. She said, whatever we needed, she was doing it. She was so kind. She was so gentle. She was laughing with us because we were trying, we were laughing a lot. And she normally wasn't on. She was like, well, I'm not normally on the 6th floor. So I'm like, why was she there? Like, why would someone so wonderful who got us through so much be there when she's not supposed to be there? Then on the last day that I was there, there was a nurse who took care of her. I got to the hospital and I said, who's the nurse today? She said, her name is Faith.
I'm sorry. I love you.
Right? Isn't it? It's weird.
No,
It's
it's
weird.
not weird. It's beautiful. God was talking to you the whole entire time.
I know, but for me, I know.
You can't
But
make
I
it
have
up.
been
Like,
an atheist since I was 10 years old. So
because he
all of
loves
this
you
has
this
been,
much, is to pull out. He pulled out the big guns. Like,
I know.
he says, there's this story about there's a story in the Bible where Jesus is talking to a shepherd, and the shepherd is saying, he's asking the shepherd, if one of your sheep leaves the herd, what do you do? And he says, I go after him, because you can't lose one. And you bring them, but you cannot lose one. And that's what Jesus says to us. Like, I can't lose anyone because you're too important. You're too important.
Yeah.
So you just been out to
Well,
pasture doing your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just go out into the world and do our thing and we forget. And then this big fucking thing happens. And it can go both ways, right?
I'm sure.
I mean, you could see, like, you could poo-poo every single thing, but you're not.
Oh, there's more. There's more.
Go.
So it was very strange, the whole, I mean, hospitals are very weird. And I said, someone's got to make was like being in a David Lynch movie. For those who've never seen David Lynch movies, maybe you should not, but they're very, very bizarre. And the characters are very, very just bizarre. But that's what it felt like. It was like being in the Twilight Zone.
Mm.
So all these things are happening. You know, I'm getting my sister water. They're giving her medicine. They're trying to figure out why she's still having pain. They think it's a blood clot. It might be the stent. It might be this. It might be that. They send her down they're going to send her down for an MRI. And then they're saying, no, they're not going to. And it's getting late. And normally the visiting hours are till 10, but they let us stay later. So I go back to my hotel room at like 11 o'clock. And at about 2 a.m, I said to her, put a note on your door, tell your nurses that you need to sleep because they've been waking her up every 2 hours. I mean, they've done blood work, everything they can possibly do. They take her down at like 2 o'clock in the morning for an MRI. And that whole day we were talking about the fact that she's claustrophobic and afraid. So they said, well, we'll give you Valium in your IV and that'll relax you and there'll be no problem. Okay, fine. But then they don't take her. So we think it's not happening. So I go home. So that night they take her, she gets down there. They had told her originally it was going to be like 15 minutes in the tube. When she gets down there, she's alone and it's in the middle of the night. And they said, no, it's going to be 40 minutes in the tube. So she immediately starts to panic. And she said, on my notes, it says, you'll give me Valium. Please call my nurse, please. You can't put me in the tube for 40 minutes. There's no way. So 20 minutes later, they come down and it's the nurse from upstairs and she has a tablet, not an IV. And now she knows that if she takes a tablet, she's going to have to wait another 20 minutes at least, but her blood pressure is off the charts. She's freaking out. No one's there. So she calms herself down and she knows she's got to do this test. So she does it. She gets back into her room at like 4:30 in the morning. They left her in the hallway for 45 minutes waiting for Transpo to come and take her back to her room. So she was hysterically crying all by herself in this hallway alone, having this in pain, just terrified, just having the worst experience. The next day was when we had Faith. And then all the one of the teams, we had names for everybody. So we called him Herman the German. Herman the German, who might not be German, came in with the other doctor. And he said, we have I got to go back. Sorry. I have a girlfriend here who works in cancer research and runs her own clinical trial. So we were sending her all the labs that we would get so she could translate them into English. So I sent her the MRI report and she texted me back, they're not seeing it. And I was like, they're not seeing what? And she said, they don't see a mass. And I said this to my sister, my brother-in-law, and they were like, no, she's not reading it right. So the doctor, Herman the German, and the other doctor come in and they said, well, we don't know what to say, but we don't see a mass. There's no mass. There's nothing. And we're like, what? What do you mean there's nothing? Well, we think it might be a blood clot. We think it might be inflammation, but the MRI shows that there is no mass.
There's no mass.
So I'm like, okay, you got me. I'm yours now. You got me. Thank you. My sister was not feeling that way. She was still like, I don't believe what you're saying. My brother-in-law was like, I don't believe what you're saying. They kept her for another 2 days. Herman the German was like, I've never, ever seen this before. So we don't really know what to say or what to do. So for now, we're trying to manage her pain because she was still having pain. And she's still to this day having pain. But the cancer in the liver, bile ducts, but we're still waiting for pathology at this point still. Pathology comes back that afternoon, nothing. So I just can't the one doctor who we called Superman, he's kind of the head of the whole hospital.
I really love all these names.
Oh yeah, so there's more. He's sort of the head of the whole hospital. His list of credentials is mind-boggling. Like, he's so incredible and so obviously so smart. And he said, I've seen this one other time in my 40-year career where all the scans say yes, and then the MRI says no. So they were going to take out her gallbladder. They were going to do another endoscopy. She kept fixing to leave, and they would stop her. At that point, we thought she was going to go home. So I made my plane ticket to go home. Then she wanted me to stay, but I couldn't. It was Frontier Airlines. So I don't know if that means anything to a lot of people. Maybe that makes you laugh, like, haha, of course it was. But like, I couldn't figure out, like, it wouldn't let me change my flight online. It wouldn't let me do anything. So she was like, that's a sign you should go. In the hospital, I had seen a man. I was getting her ice because they were giving her some drink to try to soothe this pain. And there was like, I just said he was a Sasquatch. I mean, I feel bad saying that, but he literally was like this very unkempt man with underpants on and nothing else in the hospital hallway. When I got through security, I went to get like a water and something. Right behind the checkout counter were little Sasquatch dolls. So I bought one and I made it little underpants and sent it to my sister. Then my flight was delayed, of course. I'm sitting next to the man. I go to the bar, sitting next to a man. He's from Colorado, going to Florida, and then going to Connecticut for Thanksgiving. My parents live in Florida. We're in that was just too weird. And then the last day that she was there, my sister's name is Nisa, and her nurse on the last day was called Neza. So
your takeaways. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you
now
go.
What? Yeah, I'm like, I know because we text, and
Yeah.
I know you're a believer. Like, you believe in miracles. You believe that God is real. You believe
I can't not
that. You believe that your uncle can come through and send a nurse named Tim, so you physically fucking know that he's with you, and you don't deny it anymore. And that a nurse named Faith is telling you just hold faith. And the voice in your head that tells you not to text your friend because your sister's going to be okay. And then you have the knowing where it just goes through your body. You just get this whole like story that backs it up, this proof that God is real.
How can you explain all of these doctors and all of these tests and all of these people coming in to say she has a mass on her liver? Right. I mean, I can't even tell you how many people.
Right.
And then 2 days later, it's not there.
Right.
What is that?
And
that
it is God. And you can't. Is. So like I think coming into this life being like wide open, like wide open, everything is just like, you feel, you see, you just have it. Right. And being a little girl, and for me, I saw Jesus, I saw angels, I had that holy experience, and I understood that not everything I was shown was real, because they told me that, like, they would show me, like, not everything I'm seeing in church is going to be the end all, but what I see in front of me is the truth. Like, what I know in front of me, what God shows me, like what they keep placing in front of me. And it's really difficult to discern what's made up by man when you are not trusting yourself, when you're not trusting this innate ability, like you laying on the ground and just getting it and downloading it, like to trust that more than some dogma that's hanging around and saying, well, you got to be like this. My husband and I are watching, we're watching Versailles. Like, we love these period shows. And And right now they're in this part where the Vatican, is all involved with France, and they're running this whole scheme behind the scenes. And I'm like, it's just hilarious to me that here's a religion. It's beautiful in a lot of ways, but it's
Absolutely.
so tainted. It's so tainted by the masculine, like, I don't even know the word for it, like just the lies, the deceptions, the like covering up, the, even here, I have a really great book for you, Mary Magdalene Revealed. It's a great book. Megan Watterson is a beautiful author. You're gonna adore her.
I'm going to
It's
put it in my notes.
it's a good book. You're gonna love it. Yeah, it is all about this. It's about, what does it feel like physically in our bodies to be in a system that is broken, to be present where there's all these lies. It's not easy. For me, I have to look past it. I have to go past and go like, I'm only here for this. I'm here for this. I'm here for, everything to be filled up within me. And I'm going to see past all of this negative. Some people can't do that. They just can't. They get up in arms, they get exhausted, or they just turn it off completely. And now that you're awake, you can't not be awake. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that way?
I
Like,
do. Well, I feel like when you said he doesn't bargain, and I was like, well, he's going to have to, because
yeah,
there, I don't know what, I don't have anything to give, really. And two things came to me when we were in the hospital. One thing was, or maybe it was on the plane, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I have very difficult parents. I love them so much. They are wonderful and generous, but they are very, very difficult. And what came to me was that this was for them, to humble them, to bring them down to earth. And I was like, well, there's no deal there. Like that, that's not happening. And I knew that not the trade-off, because that's not the right word, but that, and this is hard for me, because I really, 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 my whole life have not believed in God, really, truly, but very much so believe in spirit, very much. But I know that he did this so that I could then say that to people, that I do not believe in God, but now I do. And now I have to.
right.
Because he showed me.
Because he is spirit. You can't. So here's the thing. We can pretend that you can just see your uncle that died and not see God. But really, the only reason that you can see and be with your uncle is because God is spirit. Right? I don't care what fucking religion you are. Like, we have holy experiences all the time. We see miracles all the time. So we can call this whatever we want. I think your comfort level was, I'll call it spirit and not God. I'll call
For
it
sure.
you. People say this all the time. They'll be like, I'm going to call universe. Universe is, yeah, you know what? Don't hide behind what you really feel, what you really know to be true, because it's uncomfortable because of what the outside world has shown us. Or so the big awakening is this. It's like, oh, okay, is it that bad?
No.
Right. So
No. And
what do you feel like is happening to you? Because it's not just for your sister and your parent. This is for you. This is for you.
no, it's for me. It's definitely for me. And so I'll say to people, and he fucking got me. He fucking got me. I can't even believe it. I cannot believe that I am saying God is great. And I mean, and he is, and my dad's always said that, whenever we do something or go somewhere, he goes, God willing. I'm like, oh, please. But, you know, so I said, well, that was our bargain, is that I now know that I need to tell people,
Yeah.
that I need to explain to people that a miracle happened, that
Yes.
it's not a coincidence. It's not a weird thing. Now my sister's going next week for another endoscopy. She's still having pain. I think it's her gallbladder. They don't know. I think she's going to be fine. It is not what they said it was. I mean, I thought she was going to die. I thought, my girlfriend said to me, she'll have 5 years. And I was like, I fucking can't even, there's just no way. There's just no way. And all of those things, like the whole way through, was like, just hold on. And that was another thing that I saw when I was walking, little bird like hanging upside down on a branch. And I was like, thank you, I got it, just hold on, I'll just hold on. And I think that that's the message. And
Yeah. And
people,
upside down, the world is upside down. Like everything's flipped.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just hold on. Like all these times in our lives where we've have struggles, and it's
Right.
it's part of it.
Right.
You just have to hold on.
Right.
And
My
so
husband had
I keep telling him, he got me,
my husband had two experiences I want to share with you.
yeah, please.
Because I think he's always had faith. He's always had I don't think he ever really didn't believe in God, but maybe he just felt completely outside of him. And the first experience happened when we were first married. He had a drug addiction. He was addicted to cocaine. So he went to a
Wow.
rehab. Yeah, we were young and he was,
You were very young, I know that.
we were really young. Anyways, he ended up, I had just had a baby. So Lauren was like 3 months old and he went to this rehab, Conifer Park, upstate New York. And he and another guy had been like cleaning the chapel or something, or praying. They were there somehow. And the statue of Jesus started crying. And they both looked at each other and ran out. They were like, they just like ran out. Like they didn't know what to do. And they went back and it wasn't, doing it again. And then years later, obviously, right, 2021, was it last year? Yeah, it was right after all of the first round of vaccines had come out. So he had his vaccine first, and then he ended up with diverticulitis and he was in the hospital, and then his heart stopped.
That's what happened. I didn't know what happened, but yes.
And he had a near-death experience. So he again saw God, but like everything was God. He's like in this field with purple flowers. And he's like, it wasn't so much that it was flowers. It was, I was the flowers. I was the sun. I was the trees. I was the green. I was everything. And in the moment, like right afterwards, he was crying all the time. He was feeling so many feelings. But his message was like, I'm showing you this so you remember. I'm showing you so you don't forget. And we forget, we're human. And he needed a miracle and I needed a reminder. And like, it wasn't just for us. You know what I mean? Like it's for more.
For sure it's for more.
Yeah.
But has to come through somebody.
Yes. Right. Have you ever read Anita Moorjani's book? Yeah,
No.
it's another person I'm going to send you a whole bunch of stuff now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend, my sister-in-law has a very close friend. Her sister is in a prayer group. And so I reached out to them and I wrote them a whole long letter. And I said, I just want you to know that your prayers really worked, and how all the people who are praying for my sister, how much it means to me and to our family. And I said, and I shared with them, I said, I have been an atheist my entire life, and there's no other explanation for what happened other than it was a miracle and it was God. And I now can say all of those things that I've never believed and I never wanted to believe I never wanted that. So, and I know that it makes him so happy that he finally, he got one that was, he got one of the sheep that had run astray.
Yeah. Yeah. And now tell me about your family, like your little circle of family, like you and your husband and your daughter. How are they accepting all of this change, this new
Everyone thinks
identity?
I mean, everybody thinks I'm nuts anyway. So they just, you know, it took me, I don't even know how long it's been. It feels like it's been a month, but I know it hasn't. It's only been a couple of weeks, but it really took me a solid week of like I just needed to sleep. I was just in shock. And we're not really done because she's going back at the end of this week. So end of next week, we'll know for sure.
And are you
So
praying? Are you asking God for what you want for her?
yeah, no, I am. And I said to him kind of recently, which is maybe why I don't feel as passionate as I had, because I was like, okay, you know, let's just put a pause on it then, shall we? Because I'm just going to wait it out. But I know, and I did when I walk my dogs, I call it God Mountain now. And I got on my hands and knees and, kissed the ground. And I said, thank you so much for showing me and for saving my sister. And, the only thing I can do to repay it is what I know he wants, which is to share the story.
That's awesome. And do you have other plans besides this podcast to share your story?
Well, I tell as many people as I can, and I see so many people every day at work. And so, if the subject comes up or if I can bring it up, I certainly, before this happened to me, wouldn't want someone to say, by the way, do you know the Lord loves you?
Yeah, I think it's
Get
uncomfortable for us. We don't like evangelistic type of energy. So I do it in my way, my way in my readings and my way in my classes. And I always, for me, like when somebody comes back and says, I believe, or I remember God now, it lights me the fuck up. Like I'm that goal done, drop mic, I'm out. I'm so like, my job is done, like perfect, Yes. And I had that at the retreat that we ran recently, my team and I. It was incredible.
Oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start coming. That's what I said to him. I said,
yeah,
I'm going to open myself up. I'm going to do the thing that I'm scared of, but I'll be with you. So I'll feel okay. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Yes.
So actually we start on Thursday, December 1st, we're starting the mastery, which is, we'll talk after this. Maybe
Okay.
that's where, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. So, at the retreat, we're having this really beautiful moment. We did all of these incredible things about leaning in, tapping in, opening our senses, moving into our light room in heaven, because we can discern our messages. Like I'm sure that there's low frequency and then there's high frequency. There is good and there is dark. And
yes.
So my job here, what God has asked me to do is to be the light, bring them to the light, bring them to the light, bring them to God. And so that's what I do through the different experiences. So here we are at this retreat and we're day 2. And this young girl, she was not that young, but younger than me. And she was a hot mess coming in. And she came up to me at the end and she's like, I just want you to know that I haven't felt this close to God. And now I can't even remember. And I just like lost it, because it was like, when I was on my way over, I'm like, this is for you, God, everything is for you. I take none of it in. Not like I'm just humbling myself, like everything I'm doing and pouring in. So just lead the way. And I, at that moment, felt I could be done. Like I felt so fucking good, like perfect one, there it is. There she is. Look at her.
Yeah.
Look at her. Remember, look at her glow. Look at her like leaning in and helping all these other women now. Look, like what more?
And how wonderful.
How wonderful.
How wonderful.
And
That's
talking
all
about this. Yes.
we need in this world is people helping people
Right.
and spreading love.
Because we really want to feel good, right?
Of course.
And pleasure. So there's this fun thing about pleasure. It's like pleasure feels like it's not a good thing, or like it's tainted, or we're not supposed to feel good all the time, but we really are meant to feel good. We're meant to have pleasure. We're meant to be aligned.
Happy.
And
Yes.
when we are aligned and happy, when we're in this frequency, this is when we can manifest really beautiful things. That's how people like change the world. They do great things. A song comes through them that they're going to sing, and everybody's going to be touched by it. A vaccine or medical breakthrough is going to happen because this person's been aligned and they're in that
Yep.
Zen, yummy frequency. In this
Yeah.
prayerful, contemplative, holy space is when we can just spread more love. And I'm so, so, so happy for you.
Thank you. I'm happy for me too. I mean, it's definitely was the most bizarre experience I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm going to give back to what I received.
And I'm sure you will, because your makeup line is already like famous, and like you've seen this, so you know it. Like it's that easy. Like all the stars are going to be wearing your makeup, and it's there. And so here you are. Like it's by God's hand that it's going to happen. Can't happen with ours. God's going to put it on Taylor Swift. It's going to happen. So there it is.
Well, then Tallulah would be really happy. Taylor Swift, I'm like, I don't know, girl. $650 a ticket to go to her concert. I'm not too happy about that. But that's a different podcast.
When she starts wearing your makeup, it's going to be a whole new thing.
Well, yeah, I just hope that all of our everyday ladies and gentlemen find it, and it helps their lives and makes them feel better. But I really do hope that everybody can find that place in their heart to know that God exists.
So what would you recommend?
I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through, I guess.
Yeah. So what is your recommendation?
Just listen and be open and greet your day with positivity, greet your day with light. Go through your day. I mean, my kid's been home sick since Thanksgiving, but we're still waking up every day. We're still, I know things are bad for people. I know things are hard for people, but if you keep putting yourself down and small and beaten upon, it's always going to feel that way. You have to open yourself up to the universe and the holy, and that's the only way to receive it, because if you're like this, you can't receive it.
So let me ask you, and I know we don't go backwards, and it's just kind of a fun play question, but if you could have done something different to not have had this experience, if it was already in you, do you think you would have done it that way? Like if you,
No way.
You think so, you had to be cracked open.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and I'm a pretty open person, and I again, like I'm a positive person. I'm a happy person. I'm a touchy-feely person. Like, and my daughter calls me a hippie and my husband calls me a witch, and all of those kinds of things. But I never, ever, ever, I never would have said I believe in God. Never. So, and I'm a pretty open person, but I was like, that doesn't, because it's the God that I know or I knew was presented to me with religion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm not an atheist. I'm just agnostic. But I think there's a religion for everybody, I guess. If there's a God for us all, there's got to be a religion for us all.
Right.
You
could be, part of, and you'll see when you read Megan Watterson's book, you could be part of this like rising of, yes, I am an original disciple. I am a priestess. I am a holy one because I believe, and I am Jewish because it's our heritage. I am Christian because it's our heritage. I'm all.
I'm all, because I'm a Buddha. I like Buddha. I like the peace. I do like Jesus. I've always said that I do, because he's a really good person and he loved everybody.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. Like, how did that get so messed up? Like,
how did it get so messed up?
How did it get so messed up? We were just talking about the shooting at the club in Colorado. I said, what did those guys ever do to anybody? Why do people hate gay people? What did gay people ever do to hurt anybody? Nothing.
Right.
And Jesus loves everybody.
Everybody. Right.
So that would definitely not be something that he would want to have happen.
Nope.
And that's definitely not something that God would want to have happen.
Right.
So.
Well, listen, this is huge. Like, this is huge.
It's huge.
I feel like I want to land here just because I feel like this is so good and juicy. And I like, if it's about love, can we be in the frequency of love? Can we be can we be inclusive? Can we remember that
we're all just people?
Your miracle is my miracle. Your miracle is your friend's miracle. Like, it's ours. Because together we're in this life. Together we're going through it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me talk and for being my friend. And
I love you so much.
I love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Pilar. And I'm still holding your sister in my prayers. My husband was talking about her, just so you know, like, we're like,
Well, maybe you'll meet her someday because she wants to meet you.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, my friend. Have a beautiful afternoon.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, my friend, that was an amazing episode. Don't you agree? Did you know that love is available for you always? That heavenly love that we can receive lightens the heaviness of our grief, our sorrow, and our pain. This is what helps us to move forward in our life. Just like with Pilar, feeling good is what God wishes for each and every one of us. So what does your feeling good look like? Let go, and I invite you to come and heal with God and attend Heaven Now on December 17th. It's a virtual group reading where you're going to find that love is limitless. And as we gather together to receive the messages from heaven, that your voids will start to fill and heal. And then you'll feel that glow and that new resonance of love exuding from every part of you. This is how we can really start shining and claiming who we are in this lifetime. So I hope that this serves you and reminds you that you are being held at all times. And if Heaven Now sounds like yes for you, We are going to put links below in the copy so that you can easily attend. Those tickets are on sale now, and we have limited the seats so that everyone attending actually has a reading. So no one will walk away wondering, is there something for me? Nope, every single person attending is actually getting a reading. Beautiful, right? I hope you have a really beautiful, beautiful day. May God bless you and shine his light upon you. And I know what I know, because angels don't lie.